the goal of a data presentation is not just to share information, because otherwise just send them a PDF or a PowerPoint and that's it. It's not just about the information. It needs an extra ingredient, and that is...
Today, I'm talking to the leading data storytelling expert, Gilbert Eijkelenboom. He's the founder of MindSpeaking and the best-selling author of People Skills for Analytical Thinkers. Gilbert has trained hundreds of data teams at Adidas, Unilever, and ING to turn insights into stories that spark action.
The number one way to hook your audience in, apart from storytelling, is by sharing how your presentation and what you're about to share will benefit them.
In this episode, you'll discover the number one mistake data professionals make when presenting insights, how to create stories that get buy-in from even the most difficult stakeholders, and why mastering people skills is your best career insurance in the age of AI. Gilbert, you've seen so many presentations. What would you say is the number one mistake that data professionals do when presenting data?
The number one mistake is definitely sharing too many technical details, because many data professionals, they have been in the weeds, right? They have been analyzing the data and they want to show everything. They want to talk about the method they've used and then share all the beautiful outcomes in terms of the data. And what they don't do enough is focus on their audience, making them care and presenting it in a story that will make them enthusiastic about their recommendations and more open to act.
Fascinating. You just mentioned story. I'm kind of curious because story is such a buzzword, right? Everyone talks about, you got to tell your story. But how do I actually do that? If I'm a data professional, how can I share my story with data?
Yeah, so what I see many people do, many data professionals and even beyond that, is just share a lot of data points. One data point, more data points, and then go and so on. So for example, imagine a company launched a new app. So you can talk about, week 1, we got so many downloads, 500,000 downloads. Week 2, we got 200,000 downloads. Week 3, etc. But it's very boring. It's like and. It's like a toddler telling a story. And we want to create something more interesting, more memorable. And how we do that, we can do that with the CCR framework. So starting with C, context. So what is the context of your story? What's the business question you're after? Then we could go to conflict. So what is the struggle? What is the challenge for the audience? So making them care. And then talk about the R. So what is the result? So what is the recommendation you're having? So let me give you an example again for the app we've launched. So instead of giving all these data points and some technical specs that nobody cares about, we can say, we've launched this new app and we're very excited about that. But what we see is that even though we have 500,000 downloads in the first week, we see that after 1 week, only 20% of people are using it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we should introduce personalized recommendations to make the customers, the people that download the app, make them care and show them the benefit of that app. Mm-hmm. So this is how you create a story from all the data points and how you zoom in on the conflict, the problem that the audience cares about, namely that people are not using it after 1 week. So that's a real problem that business people will care about. And CCR framework, the reason I love that is because I'm kind of old-fashioned when it comes to music. So I'm not sure if you're aware of the band CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Never heard of them.
From the 70s, 60s. We can play it after this podcast recording if you like. It will get us into a nice lunch conversation. But I remember being on a Santana concert. And Carlos Santana is also this old guy, right? But I loved it. I was 18 years old on that concert. But I entered the venue and like everyone was like 40, 50 years old. I even met parents from a good friend of mine. So that told me how old I am. But this hopefully makes the CCR framework, the CCR framework for data storytelling more memorable, and hope you can apply it in your data presentations.
All right. So everyone listen to CCR.
Yes.
And then it will automatically help you tell better stories.
Exactly.
I love this. So it seems that conflict is absolutely crucial for those type of stories. I'm wondering now, when you use CCR, you can probably still tell an average story, but how can I then tell this average story in an incredible way? Are there any specific tools that you would say that spice up any story?
Yeah, one thing you could do is introduce a character. So instead of saying, hey, we launched the app, it got so many downloads, but after 1 week, people are not using it. Therefore, we need to do something in the first days.
Mm-hmm.
We could also say, let's talk about Sophia. She's an app user. She downloaded the app in the first week after launch. But what is very striking about her is that she's very fast-paced. If she doesn't see the value within 2 minutes, she's out. And from our research, we have shown that many people are actually like Sophia. Sophia, this person who acts fast and wants to know exactly what the benefit is for her. So if we make audience and all those people who quit after a week care, then we keep them as existing customers. And we make sure we increase retention and improve the app performance. So by introducing a character, you make your audience care more. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Because introducing a character will release more oxytocin in the body of our audience.
What's oxytocin?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So oxytocin is the chemical in our brains that also known as the love hormone, the bonding hormone. So when someone tells a vulnerable story, or when someone talks about something they were challenged by, then people will care more. And there will be more oxytocin in the body of our audience. And as a result, there will be more bonding with your story and with you, and more open for your recommendations. And that's super important because as a data professional, we often present something that people don't like so much. Sometimes we present outcomes that make people defensive. And the goal of a data presentation is not just to share information, because otherwise just send them a PDF or a PowerPoint and that's it. It's not just about the information. It needs an extra ingredient for them to act. And that is persuasion. Because if you don't have that information, if you only have that information, but you don't have the persuasion, the storytelling to make them act, nothing will happen. And I've seen this in my career as a data professional too many times. So as a data analyst presenting and then walking out of the room, everybody said, hey, thank you, that was very interesting. And I saw everybody leaving the room and I was just sitting there on this chair feeling, okay, is this my job? Just presenting information and then people leaving and nothing happens. It's the worst thing that can happen. And that's why I'm so passionate about this topic.
I can really see that. And I can see so many people just giving dashboard after dashboard after dashboard, and then just nothing is being acted upon.
Exactly.
I love the idea of bringing it back to a specific person. I was wondering, are there some cases where there is no person around that problem? And what do you do in those situations?
I think in most cases there is actually a character. So how you can see it, it's not. So some people think about you need to make the character, the audience, the character, the people in the audience. But I disagree. From experience, I know that you need to make the character someone that the audience cares about. So if you talk to HR, then make the character an employee. For example, someone that if you talk about retention and retaining very good talents, you can talk about why so many people are leaving and zooming in to one person, this high performer that everybody knows, and then sharing some quotes from her, saying what her struggles are, and saying, hey, I don't feel supported, I feel on an island. And that's definitely something HR cares about, because they care about retaining their top talent and minimizing the cost for acquiring new people, getting new people in. So for HR, you can talk about employees. If you talk to marketing, talk about customers, because that's what they care about. If you talk to finance or operations will care about efficiency and making the onboarding for people perfect for new customers. So all these things, you can almost always introduce a character. And in many cases, you can also tell a personal story. And a biggest misconception about personal stories is that they don't have a place in the workplace, that you should not tell personal stories. But you can relate any type of story to a business situation.
Ooh, I'm kind of curious about that one. So, hey, I'm this data guy and I want to use a personal story. Where and how can I do that?
Yeah, so maybe we need to get a bit of context. as a data professional, imagine you're presenting about that app, right? That the company launched. Then you can talk about a moment where you were really in a hurry, where just to emphasize, like, hey, I'm also like Sophia. You can say like, hey, I was trying to get tickets for a new festival, and I was in this queue, and it was a countdown, and I waited for too long, and I really wanted to go to the festival, but I also knew that I had other priorities. And then a friend was calling me, and I completely forgot about the festival. In the end, I didn't buy a ticket. And that brings us to this, what we're here for today. And then you can talk about the downloaded app and Sophia, and why people, if they're impatient or if they don't see the value early on, they will leave. So I'm just making this story up. It's not fantastic.
Wait, this didn't happen?
But you can improvise any type of story, or of course prepare that story. And by introducing a little bit more about your life, you increase, as mentioned, the oxytocin in the body of your audience. You increase the dopamine because they're curious. It's also something that not many people do because they're scared. But actually, on the other side of that little risk that you're taking is a huge reward, because people will be starting to listen to you more, appreciating your work and valuing what you have to share. And that's something that many data professionals feel. They feel like, I'm this smart person. I have these insights. I've built this model for weeks or months, or I've created this dashboard. It's beautiful. But then people don't appreciate it. And that's such a big frustration that I'm very passionate about for solving that.
Yeah, I can imagine. So much time lost on this one.
Yeah.
I found fascinating how you use that story right now at the start of a presentation. So it really seems that you can take any personal moment and tie it back somehow to the theme that you're talking about, or also the number that you discovered, right? You can use that. Now, where I'm curious, what other ways should you do at the start? Because most people, data people, but also non-data people, they're pretty awkward about that start of the presentation. They're like, oh, hello everyone, my name is John. Today I'm going to talk about X, Y, and Z. So how can you start in a more captivating but also still authentic way?
The number one way to hook your audience in, apart from storytelling, is by sharing how your presentation and what you're about to share will benefit them. So you're thinking about what is their goal and what is their challenge, and how does what you are about to present relate to that. So in the example of downloading the app and many people downloading it but not using it after 1 week, you can say, today I'm going to share a big problem with the app we launched recently, and exactly the number one fix, how to change something so that people keep on using it. Because so far people are dropping off after 1 week. So that's really something you need to think about beforehand. Because many people talk about data storytelling. They think about, okay, I need to beautiful visualizations and I maybe need a beautiful story. And yes, story visualizations are definitely important because they're usually all over the place. Too many details on slides. But before that, we need something else. Because the framework I found most useful for data presentations is the game framework. And I'm going to talk about each element for now. So the first one is goal. So before you touch your slides, before you start writing your script, you need to understand the goal. What's the goal of the presentation? And the goal is not to share an insight or present an update. That's just an activity. That's not a goal. The goal is for the marketing managers to start acting on your insights, or for the sales team to start using the lead scoring model. And those are real good goals focused on the business. So the next one is the A, the audience. So think about what are their frustrations, what are their goals. So that's really what you want to know. So if you have a room of marketing managers, then think about, okay, what do they want? They want more customers and they want more customer satisfaction. So that's what you want to focus on in your presentation. Tell them how your solution, namely improving the personalized recommendations in the app, tell them how that will benefit them. Tell them how that will bring in more customers and keep them happy and increase loyalty. So that's what you want to do. So we have goal, audience, and then we go to the M, which is message. Many people, when you ask them, hey, what's the message of your presentation? What do you want to share? They come back with 5 A4 papers and saying like, oh, everything is important. But I always challenge people in our training to write your key message on a Post-it. Just in one sentence, maybe 8 words. What is your key message? And by doing that exercise, and you will find that it's very difficult to do that, is that once you have that on paper, you have so much clarity that will help for the whole presentation. It will give so much clarity, more clarity than writing a whole script, because you need to keep the goal, the audience, and the message in mind. And only then we get to the last one, E, expression. And then we can talk about the story and about the visualization and it's about the slides. But so many people forget about that.
That's a wonderful framework, the game framework. Never heard of that before. Do you know the one thing that stood out the most is the message? Would you describe that? I think is a little bit, in consulting, they call this storyboarding, where you write down the key message per slide already, or you put on Post-its, and then you see the overall flow of the presentation.
100%.
And that one I remember back when I was a consultant, that one was the one thing that helped people the most, because then when you put them next to each other, well, you realize that, actually, none of this matters. No, this stuff doesn't even flow with each other. And so it saves so much time down the line and makes the experience so much better.
Yeah, you can see the whole story flow and you can take stuff out, importantly, because usually there's too much in presentations. And also it helps to make the story flow, because what I see in many titles is a description of what people are seeing. For example, sales by category. And then a big chart with all types of colors and bars. That is super confusing. But sales by category is not a good title. You want to have the main insight in the title so that people get in seconds what this is about. So for example, after a steady increase in the first months of the year, we have a big drop in sales in Q3. So this is really something that is concerning, right? If you talk to a sales audience, they're like, I need to know more about this. What's going on? And it raises questions in the mind of the audience, like, hey, why is this drop? And what can we do about it? So that's how you make them care and how you get buy-in for your solution, for your recommendation.
I love this. Yeah. If more people just use this action title or descriptive title, I think all presentations would already look radically different.
100%.
Now, you talked about what I love when you said characters, like add those characters to make your data presentation more interesting. Is there anything else that you feel, hey, those ones spice up any presentation that make a presentation much more interesting?
A big one is making it a conversation. What many people feel is they feel pressure to, okay, now I'm going to present and I need to nail the points and I need to remember my script. What is the most important thing about presentations is that you make people feel a certain way. It's not just about the information that you're transmitting. They could read that in a slide or an email, but you also need to motivate them to act and to make them care. And a great way to do this is not just to present, but also make it a dialogue. So I'm not talking about the Q&A at the end. Throughout this presentation, you can even make it a little quiz. So this was the sales in Q1 and Q2. What do you think happened in Q3? And only then you reveal that. So then you make it more curious. You make it almost like a Netflix episode where people want to know what's going to happen next. So you increase that dopamine for your audience and they want to know what's coming. And especially in this age where everybody's distracted, where everybody pulls out their phones and reads their emails after 2 minutes if they're not engaged in the presentation. You need to keep them hooked. And by asking them these questions, by making a little quiz, or asking them, hey, does this surprise you? Or what's your experience here? And of course, you need to keep in mind who's in the audience, and more influential people. You want to make them talk as well. But one mistake that many people make is they wait until that last presentation before they interact with them. And that's a big mistake because you might be surprised. You're presenting something and then the big senior person says like, I don't believe in this idea. So what I've learned is always to involve them beforehand. And a psychological effect that I love is the IKEA effect.
What's that?
Do you know about that? So have you ever bought something at IKEA?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately. So
plenty of suffering went into that.
Yes. And sometimes it's hard, right? You're trying to assemble stuff and afterwards you might feel a bit frustrated. But maybe you feel a little bit proud as well. You feel more emotionally attached. And that's how many people feel when they partially create a solution themselves. It's not just buying something and putting it in your house. It's buying something and then assembling it. And it's the same with projects in business or with your insights or recommendations. So what you want to do is to bring them in, to ask them for their opinion. And yes, some people don't have much time, but even if you send them something in advance, asking them, hey, what do you think about this? Can I get your input? They will share their feedback or not, but at least they have the opportunity to influence the process. And as a result, the end solution, the insights, recommendations, or the solution that you have are also partially theirs. And they will feel more emotionally invested and they will champion that and recommend it to other people. So that's how you get buy-in from stakeholders, not just in the presentation by doing an awesome job, but even before that.
This is so fascinating. I don't think I've ever heard it like this. Because usually you think people send, for example, this email before, hey, can you give some input? Because they want input. But how you described it, sure, it serves that purpose. But it's also just an influencing tool. And so that the moment the people are part of that conversation, part of the solution, they're more likely to actually say yes when you're about to propose something. That is so cool. Yeah, what would you say to the people? Because I notice oftentimes people are like, I have this 30-minute slot. I don't want to make it too engaging. I don't want to do this. It's not professional. What do you say to those people that are a little bit reluctant to use some of the techniques that you described?
I would ask them a question. And I would ask them the question of, what do you want from your career? Would you like to work on something super hard and then get it done and people don't use it? Or do you want to invest a bit more time or prioritize certain parts more? Like say, thinking about how to present it, how to get buy-in from people, really understanding your audience, asking them, hey, okay, you're asking about insights, but what decision does this lead to? Because if you don't understand that, all the work that you're doing is a waste. You're just solving a problem, but it's not the problem that the audience wants to know about, wants to solve. So I would ask them, like, what's the purpose? If you enjoy doing a lot of work that gets in a drawer somewhere or in an inbox, then do that. And if you love that, but all the data professionals that I know and all the analytical minds that we've trained, they love two things. One, problem solving, and two, seeing their work in action. So that's the realization that people need to have. That communication and presentation skills and storytelling are not just things you do on the side, but it should be at the core. It's at least as important as the technical side.
Beautiful. If I wanted to make it a priority in my life, data, storytelling, how could I get started?
Of course, training is always a good idea, but there's also smaller steps you can take. What I've done at some point, I noticed like my storytelling is not where I want it to be. I definitely want to become more confident as a speaker. I want to be more articulate. I want to improve my storytelling. I did a few things. First of all, I always made it a rule to always raise my hand. If my manager asked for a volunteer who would like to give a presentation today, I made it a rule to raise my hand. Wow. And I didn't always want that. And I felt a lot of tension and fear always. But by always raising my hand, I made it a priority to just go, get the reps in. And that helped me so much. because of course you can do so many courses and watch millions of YouTube videos about tips how to be a better presenter. But if you don't implement it, if you don't try it, if you don't get feedback, then it doesn't work. So that's the first one. I always raise my hand. And then the second one is use more opportunities in daily life to practice communication. Because often people say like, I only present a few times a year. So how often can I really practice? But you have so many opportunities. Every time you order a coffee, you could have a small conversation. And it might be awkward at first, but at some point you feel more confident speaking with people and getting out of your comfort zone. So all the moments you feel on the spot. Another thing I did, I made it a rule every time someone asked me, how was your weekend? Via WhatsApp or any messenger app. I responded with a voice message. And in the beginning I was like, do I want to do this? Maybe people don't like it, all these thoughts. Mm-hmm. But I started doing that. And then I listened back to it. And it was kind of cringe in the beginning. But I listened for a few things. One, storytelling. So am I summarizing the weekend? Did I say like, on Friday I did this. On Saturday I did this. On Sunday I did this. Super boring. Or am I zooming on one moment where I got a bit frustrated or where something surprising happened? And the second thing I watch for is intonation. So in the past, my manager, I remember this conversation. We did a workshop in Madrid and we were at the airport in the lounge and we were evaluating the workshop and I was leading that for the first time. And we sat down there. I was very nervous because I was like, okay, hopefully I did a good job because this is important. And he sat down and he said, Gilbert, your voice is so flat. People are falling asleep. And he was known for being super direct, but it still felt like a big punch in the face. Mm-hmm. So intonation is another one I look for. Mm-hmm. Am I talking like this with the same pace and intonation all the time? Or is there some variety? Because you can sense from my voice right now, this is way more interesting to watch and to listen. So the last one I look for is filler words. I don't believe in focusing too much on filler words, but what I believe in is practicing more with pauses.
Great pause.
Thank you. Yeah, so even when we do this, right, you feel as the audience, you feel a type of energy, a type of like, I need to pay attention. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think those pauses are so important. And they can replace the filler words. And those are the three things I watch for in those, or listen for in those voice messages. Wonderful.
The one thing that stuck the most with is that I will now question every single voice note that you send me. Because yes. is just practicing his storytelling there.
Everything. I'm abusing our complete relationship for improving my communication. Yes.
Yeah. You can abuse me for that. That's all right. No, that's so cool. I love this. Do you know what I love the most is the first thing that you said about taking initiative. The first time that I saw this was actually in an improv group, because there it's almost to an uncomfortable level. The teacher says something, who would like to do the scene? And immediately people just rush to the stage and do that, because that's the whole mindset about improv. They say, hey, I'm going to do it, whatever comes up. And that is such a beautiful opportunity. I was at the beginning, oh no, this is awkward, I don't want to do this. But if you just make it a mindset that every single time a question comes up or someone looks for a volunteer or so, and you just go there, oh, fuck, I don't know what it is, but still go for it. That just builds so much courage, so much confidence.
Right. And it's one thing to step up, right? And to go for it. But what I'm thinking about, because I'm reading your sign here, Story Lab, and I know you're very good at storytelling. So what's your process for creating stories or sharing stories? So if you think about, I want to jump in with a story or use a story in a presentation, how do you do that? How do you come up with the story?
Yeah. In the times where I was still talking a little bit, giving presentations on more data heavy stuff as well, what I would do is I would share a story about how I discovered a number. And those can oftentimes be very simple. Let's say you share the story right at the start of your presentation, right? You have this beautiful discovery, and then you say, just last week, I was on my computer running this analysis, And on this one slide, on this one graph, I see this massive drop. And I was like, where does that come from? That's curious. Today, I'll share how this one drop here could save us 12% in net margin every single year. And you'll actually discover the 3 tools how we can unlock that. And then boom, I would go in my presentation. And so this is how I would use stories right now. So anytime that you think like you've run some analysis and this is a really good finding, well, share that moment where you discovered that, where you just like sitting there, oh wow, this is cool stuff. Well, share the exact thoughts that are going on in your moment, and then share that story right at the start. That's how I would start there.
Very cool. I'm wondering about the rest of the presentation.
And then it was nothing. And then it was just completely meaningless. But at least I had everyone's attention for the whole minute. You were just talking about confidence as well. And I know that this is not necessarily something that came to you naturally. What would you say, what was something that helped you really feel much more confident presenting?
First of all, it's about crushing a lot of limiting beliefs. Because I remember in university, we were doing a group project. We're sitting down in the university lunchroom, and we were discussing the project. And one person said like, oh, Gilbert, what do you think about this? Where should we take this? And then the other guy says, doesn't matter. Gilbert doesn't have an opinion anyway.
Ooh.
And in that moment, I feel crushed. I feel like, wow, I do have an opinion, but I'm just not so vocal about it. I'm not so assertive or screaming and yelling like you. That's what I felt and that's what I thought, but I didn't say that. I kept silent even in that moment. And in that moment, I realized like, hey, I need to speak up. I do believe that I have an opinion worth sharing, an ideas worth sharing. But I need to speak up, otherwise people will never hear them. And I see the same with so many data professionals. They're kind of shy, a bit timid. They only want to speak up if they're 100% certain about all the different bullet points. And that's something you need to crush. And that limiting belief of I don't want to speak up, or I don't have so much interesting things to say, the best thing is to just practice. So the best thing to practice is just to raise your hand and find any opportunity to get there. And then ask feedback. So see if there's someone you trust, a colleague or a friend, and ask them for feedback. Ideally, they need to know a lot about storytelling and presentation skills, but it's not even necessary because they know how the general audience will feel. So getting feedback is very important as well. And then the last one that I love as well is to journal. To journal about what's going on, journal about the process. First of all, so what I do for every big decision and for every big presentation that I'm making, I'm journaling for 1 minute, writing down what I will focus on. And afterwards, I'll journal how it went and what went well, what was the response. Because that makes you so much more conscious about what to improve. And as a bonus, if you read back about what I was challenged or what I was worried about 5 years ago, it's amazing because you can see your growth on paper. And that's the beauty about communication. It's very visual. Like if I look at YouTube videos from me 1 or 2 years ago, it's almost hard to watch. But I really hope that I'm having the same cringe feeling in 2 years about how I present today. I would love that because that means I'm progressing. That means I'm taking steps forward. And I could stay the same forever, but I think it's kind of boring to live your life that way. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes I am thinking, like, why don't I just have a simple life or not pushing myself so much? But I think it's really fun. So maybe that's also part of the answer. Find the fun in the speaking up and becoming more vocal and becoming more confident, because I know a lot of people who say like, I need to work out more often, and then they go to the gym and they hate it, and they after 2 weeks they quit. So with presentations, find something that's fun for you and find fun in the adventure, because then you will do it more often.
Gilbert, If I suddenly got access to all of your journals and I would have right now in my hand the journal of 5 years ago, what would be the big theme that I would find there, the big struggle?
Oh, beautiful question. 5 years ago, I just set up my business. It was the middle of COVID.
Mhm.
I was there with a friend who said like, Gilbert, you're crazy. It's the middle of COVID. What are you thinking? You're setting up a business. Everybody is struggling. But I felt like I really want to do this. And I felt super confident. And then sometimes also like, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe hype. I like data and people skills. But maybe the data people only want to learn the data side. But after the last 5 years, I know it's different. There are a lot of people who want to improve. And they're right. But 5 years ago, I had a lot of struggles with stress, man. I wanted to succeed with the business so eagerly that I was always working in my head. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, sweating. It's like 2 a.m., but I was turned on. Like I was watching a very a crazy movie, with a lot of dopamine, and I could feel the dopamine in my body. It was so unhealthy, and I was journaling a lot about that, like how to get rid of the stress, how to deal with it, how to be a normal human. But it was really, really hard, and to me, this was the biggest challenge in building the business. I felt really, really stressed because I was really stressed about like, is this going to work out? But I was stressed about because I was always having ideas, waking up at night, like thinking, I need to talk to Philip, or I need to talk to this client, or I need to create this piece of content, or I have this idea. So I was always working in my mind and never turning off. Mm-hmm. So this mindset of being so driven really helped me in many ways, but also was a big challenge. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say? Right now, when I see you, you seem like a very calm, very balanced guy. So I figure that you have mostly overcome that intense stress. What would you say has helped you the most to overcome that stress? And maybe, other people that feel in a similar situation, what advice would you have for them?
What has helped me most is meditation.
What kind of meditation?
I use this app called Calm. Mm-hmm. And I started with 10 minutes per day, but now I expanded that to 30 minutes often per day. And it makes me feel so relaxed and grounded, more confident, more relaxed. So that's the biggest one. And I don't care so much about what the meditation is exactly. I also go to YouTube, find different ones, as long as, often I focus on my breath. Sometimes I do like Vipassana or other types of meditation. And it makes me feel less rushed. Like, I need to finish this. Like last year I got a child. She's 1 year old right now. But in the beginning it was also stressful. I was not sleeping well. And I remember this moment sitting on my couch in the living room. On the one side was my daughter, the baby. On the other hand was a laptop. And me eagerly wanting to finish that email, making everything super important. This needs to happen now. It's super important. And then trying to console my crying baby, my daughter. And then going back and forth like, I finished the email. I close my laptop and I look at my daughter. And I'm thinking like, this is not the dad I want to be. And it really made me realize and strengthen my priorities to say, okay, it's enough now. This has the priority, but it's still a struggle. I don't think it ever becomes easy, but I'm way more chill about it. I'm also more relaxed about messing up a little bit on one side or the other. When the business losing or leaving money on the table is also okay. There's enough. There's a lot of clients, and we're doing fantastic work, and I'm really grateful for that. So I'm feeling more calm.
The one quality that I probably admire the most with you is really having those priorities clear, because I don't know anyone else that thinks so much about outsourcing, having systems, maintaining that freedom. And so what would you say, how could people also in the corporate life, hey, if they're data professional, how could they, I think, prioritize more or also say no more effectively?
Yeah, when it comes to saying no, we first need to ask ourselves, like, why do people find it so difficult to say no? And for me, it was a limited mindset. It was believing that I was not completely worthy. Because if I'm completely okay, then I can also say like, hey, it's until here and not any further. So what I found is that first you need to be very clear on what's important for you. If you want to work 8 hours per week, that's completely fine. If that's really what you're okay with, not just because you're on autopilot. And if you want to be more with family or sports or whatever, then that's also fine. But first become clear on that. Then second, start to enforce boundaries. There's a few things that can help. So one is, instead of trying to say like, no, I cannot do this, make it a rule. Saying, hey, I have a rule that I don't work on evenings or on Thursday, Friday evening, whatever it is.
And Monday and Tuesday as well.
Exactly. I don't work during the day. That's my rule, but
like
still get me the money. Yeah, so make up some rules for yourself and then enforce them with power. So that's one you can try. And what is good always is to offer a solution or something that you cannot do. So imagine someone asks you like, hey, can you create this? Can you get this insights for me? Then you can say like, I'm fully booked right now, but what I can do is help you on Monday, first thing on Monday. Mm-hmm. So then you still are thinking proactively about a solution. Mm-hmm. And it's finding this balance between protecting your own boundaries and thinking about like how you can help people. Because the more you think about how to provide value to others, the better your career will be. That's something I've learned.
Got it. That just makes me think of probably a common strategy there is to just say, hey, okay, I can do that in a month. And then in a month, it's not a problem anymore. But then, it's not really a priority.
True. And that's the case in many data requests. They say like, oh, we need this urgently. But then you ask them questions or you say like, hey, I cannot do it then. It's already vanished. So maybe it's not so important, or people often don't know what they're asking. Like many stakeholders say like, oh yeah, man, let's get some data on this. And then they shoot an email to the data analyst saying, hey, we need this. But actually they don't really know what's the decision that the data is driving. So that's the job of the data professional. It's not so much to find the insights. It's to understand what people need, how they can help them make better decisions. But that's something that not many data professionals understand, especially junior ones.
I feel very guilty for all the times that I've given some data professionals sometimes. Because I did exactly what you described there. I think it's super urgent. We need it tomorrow. And obviously it was never as urgent and as important.
Yeah, but so you can blame Philip in the comments.
You can blame me.
Put some hate comments in there.
But Gilbert, let me ask you the question that I'm actually most curious about. Because I think I know, but I don't really know. You were a professional poker player. Tell me about this. How did that happen? Like, I want to know. We'll see. Can I switch my job right now and become one?
Yeah, we can sit in a room or a casino if you like, and we'll figure everything out.
So far, I've lost 300 euros in my entire poker career.
Oh, yeah? So that's your track record.
Yes.
Okay, let's win it back. And I can talk about that. So briefly how it started. I know I was 18 years old. I had dinner at a friend's place, and he showed me like he was playing poker online. And I didn't even know the rules. I knew it from movies, but I got so interested. I've always loved games. I loved math. I loved a bit of psychology. And I started playing online, first for fake money, but slowly it started to grow into something more serious. And at some point, it went so well, I decided to have a conversation with my parents about it. Because,
how did that go?
Because my proposal that I wanted to make is to temporarily quit my studies and be a professional poker player. And as you can imagine, I was very stressed about this conversation because I thought, oh, maybe they think their son is now not a drug addict, but a gambling addict. You know, it's not far from each other, maybe. But I was very stressed about this. I had the conversation and they were surprisingly supportive. They said, I could show some consistent winnings. Of course, I waited a little bit, some months to show, hey, this is not just gambling, it's consistent winnings. So I went for more focused poker time. And what that meant is I had a huge screen, 30 inch, full of poker tables. So I played 6 to 10 tables at the same time, often 8. And the beauty is that I bought all the hand histories for the whole month. And what that meant is I downloaded all the data from all the players, all their actions, all their how they behaved on the poker table. I paid a ridiculous amount. I don't know exactly how much anymore, but I think I paid a few thousand per month to get all that data in.
Wow.
And of course it was costly, but it gave me so much information about the players. So when I sat down, I saw like, oh, Philip, this is a guy who plays way too many hands. So this guy, I'm gonna get some money from. Or this guy, oh, he looks like a professional. Or this guy, he's very aggressive. So he's always betting, but he doesn't always have something. So that gave me the information. So that data was super valuable for me on the poker table behind that big screen and being by myself. But I tried to apply the same in real life, in real conversations. And when we would be having a conversation back then in 2009, 8, I was thinking constantly like, oh, what is Philip thinking right now? What's his next action? And I was really much stuck in my head and I was very insecure. And when this moment happened, when I shared about university, the guy saying, hey, Gilbert doesn't have an opinion anyway, that was a moment for me to say like, I want to improve my communication because relationships are important. I see how important communication is at work. So I started to raise my hand and do this stuff with voice messages and improve my storytelling. And it brought me so much. And wrote a book about it. I remember this one guy who sent me an email saying, hey, I read your book, People Skills for Analytical Thinkers. Super interesting, and I hope it's going to save my marriage. So I sent him back that I'm not sure about that, but I hope it's going to contribute.
Did it?
I'm not sure. So this this is a spoiler we're saving for forever, maybe.
So quick advertising. Anyone looking for marriage counsel? This gentleman has the solution.
Actually, I'm not lying. I'd be quite interested in it. I'm so interested in psychology. But yeah, that's a big sidetrack. And I have so many interests, but what it always brings together is the data and the technology side and the human side and communication skills. Because those two together are beautiful, especially in the age of AI.
Mm-hmm. Talking about AI, how do you feel that AI will impact the most the work of data professionals, and how should they respond to that?
You see already that the big tech companies, they're firing so many junior coders because AI does the job. And slowly, data professionals are affected as well. You see that it takes over more and more of the tech side of things. And the value of data professionals in the future is really that human part, the human side of data, communication, storytelling, and understanding how to drive business value from data. And that's the part data professionals need to focus on, not getting another course in Python. Of course, it's valuable, but it's not as valuable in the age of AI compared to honing your communication skills. And some people say, like, you're born with a natural talent of communication. I know you can improve a lot. I've seen that in our training, people growing in a few months from very shy and introverted and sharing all the details to speaking up, becoming more confident and expressive and being really good at presenting in front of a business audience. And myself as well. I don't have any videos of 2009, me presenting. Maybe I have them. I can look them up, but then you can see the before, after as well. People can improve in communication, and in the age of AI, that's definitely your best bet.
Talking about that, I know that you did an interesting challenge just a couple of weeks ago, right? What was that?
You mean the one we did?
Yes.
Yeah. It was a very good challenge, and it helped me a lot. So about 2 months ago or 1 month ago, we said, okay, we both want to grow on YouTube. You're a bit ahead of me a few years. And you told me, like, hey, let's have this challenge to become more confident on camera, because speaking like this or in a regular conversation is one way, but speaking to a camera is different. So you said, okay, let's record an unscripted video, one per day, every day, and then upload it to raise the stakes. So that's what we did. And it helped me a lot to improve my communication. Of course, speaking in front of camera, but also communication in general. So if you want to become better at communication, record yourself. I know it's super awkward in the beginning, but it's so valuable to see yourself and maybe get feedback from others as well. And if you want to publish on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, great. If you're not ready for that, that's also fine. The process of doing that is massive and cannot be underestimated.
And when I do this, I see a recording of myself. I'm like, fuck, this is bad. Like, how do I know then what to work on?
Yeah, the funny thing is, when it comes to communication, we know what a good speaker looks like. Because if we look at Simon Sinek or Vin Jiang, they're really good speakers. And when I show in our training, when I show a video and I try to break it down with the audience, they say already like, oh, this is what they're doing. The gestures that they're making, they're very coherent with what they're saying. Or they're using a lot of pauses. So basically we know what good looks like already. It's just about implementing it. And another way, sometimes you don't see everything for yourself, so you can also share with a friend. So look for a Philip Hum, a guy who also wants to improve their communication. It's a very bonding experience, and you also can give feedback to each other.
Having some sort of accountability buddy.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, before we go into wrap up, what are some other mini challenges that data professionals could do? For example, one would be, yes, record yourself. Are there any other things where you feel like this could really move the needles for anyone working in data?
When it comes to improving presentation skills, it's knowing to deal with that fear. And this also relates to saying no, because at some point I did another challenge. I wanted to become more assertive, more confident, and be more clear on my boundaries. So I said, every time I sit in the train, this was about 8 years ago, because I was riding in the train a lot, and I was sitting in the silent part. And when someone spoke in there, and you're not supposed to speak or listen to loud music, right? I made it a rule, another stupid rule of mine that I hated at the moment, but that I benefited from, is that I made it a rule that I had to speak up, that I had to go to that person. And I remember sitting there with all these thoughts like, they're probably getting off at the next stop, or it's not that loud anyways. Don't be such a jerk for ruining someone's day, all those things. But I made it a rule. So I went up to that person and said, hey, have you seen it? This is the silent part of the train. And then often they said, oh, I haven't seen it. No worries, I'll put the music down. I'll stay silent, or we move. So often it was not that bad. And sometimes we got into a little conversation where they said like, well, I don't care. I'm in the silent train. But even in those moments that are worst case, I felt okay, because it was not about the outcome. It was about me speaking up. And after doing that for 30 times, I felt so much more relaxed, not just for speaking up in the train and for telling people, hey, be silent, please, but also in other areas of my life. And when you don't feel that fear of judgment so much, it will also help your presentation skills, because people are afraid for giving a presentation because they feel judged. And if you don't feel that fear so much, if you just, it's like, hey, I'm doing this presentation and this is me, I'm completely okay with whatever is coming, that is true confidence.
Beautiful. I love this. And I also love that all the trains in Netherlands right now are silent.
Very silent.
Thanks for
It's like Japan now.
Gilbert, if you could give one final tip of how to have better communication skills, but also live a happier life as a data professional, what would be that tip?
Many data professionals are very curious about data and the technical side. If they would be just 10% more curious about people, about who they're speaking to, who's in the audience, about their decisions, their challenges, their problems, and their goals, it would make a massive difference. So every single day and every time you talk to someone, take 30 seconds to sit down and write down, what's the context of this person? What does this person want, and what's blocking them? And if you help them reach their goals and overcome their challenges, then you'll be 10 times as much valuable as you were before. So become a little bit more curious about other people, just like you are so curious in the data.
I love this. I love this so much because it's also a reminder of how we just walk through life.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Gilbert, thank you so much. This has been such an inspiring conversation. I'm super, super grateful for the insights that you shared, our friendship, and also to see you just grow and succeed and help more and more people in the future. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Philip.